Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with another episode of Entitled Parents. Today's episode is gonna be an absolute banger and I know you're gonna love this one. As always, now's your chance to earn a few Bumfris points for free. So if you leave a like on the video below, you'll get 7,212 Bumfris points, which like I've said are completely useless, but hey, a reward's a reward. If you're a newbie, don't forget to subscribe, then sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. So, my boyfriend of 2+ years recently proposed on the top of St. Louis Arch in front of his parents. He wanted his mum to record it, and it was in front of a bunch of other people. I, of course, said yes and was crying, which was a total girl moment. My future mother-in-law sent the video to my dad, who is the good parent, and he texted me a congratulations and I knew that you'd say yes. After all, my fiance did have to ask his permission. At the end of the day, we decided to wait until after he graduates from college and gets his feet up. He graduates in 2021 and I graduate in 2024. I'm doing an extra year for kinda double majoring and he graduates first. So we decided to have the date set for November 24th, 2024. It's our dating anniversary / the day that we met. When I get home from visiting him and his parents at the end of the week, my dad hugs me and congratulated me. Then we drove home. We got home and I put my stuff in my room and my mum, who had mistreated me from the age of 8 after my dad divorced her and is the entitled mum in this story, came out of the guest room. My dad told me that she was staying here so she could work. I told him if she doesn't bother me, I won't bother her. We then talked briefly about plans and stuff and what my fiance and I had already decided upon. Then I mentioned our plans for me to wear a black wedding dress and have him wear a white suit. He's tan and looks amazing in white. I, however, look terrible in light colours because of my Irish genetics. Black suits me a lot more, and my dad loves it. My mum came out of the guest room and said, "I'm going wedding dress shopping with you so you don't F up my day." Yes, her day. Not like I'm the one who's getting married. I told her the wedding dress had already been picked out, which I had picked an idea out, not the dress set in concrete yet, and she stops and cries and said how I ruined her special moment. I told all this to my fiance, who knows what she is like, and he said to calm down and reminded me that it's our wedding and we can do whatever we want. I also said that she'll probably wear white, and he said, "I'll get a buddy of mine to spill red wine on her. Don't be scared. It's okay. I'll post updates as things unfold, but for now, I'm just happy I'll be married to the love of my life in 4 years." There's a lot of different types of entitled parent stories that make you feel really bad for the people, but none quite as much as when the entitled parent is their own. I'm sure I've said something along these lines before, but when you run into an entitled parent in the street, at least that's the end of your encounter with them. It's pretty unlikely that you ever see them again, and if you do, it may not be the most serious or severe run-in. On the flip side of that though, and the entitled parent is your own parent or one of your own family members, that is an awful situation that I would not wish upon anyone. So, for a little backstory, during this whole quarantine kerfuffle, my dad offered to pay me to help him trim up a couple of trees around our property. I'm out of school for a while, so I agreed. Today, while we were working on one tree at the front of our yard, my dad was using a chainsaw to cut down a tree that had grown next to the tree that we were trimming. I was standing off to the side watching, while trying to not get hit by the tree as it was like 12 foot tall, when my neighbour, who is the entitled mum, walks up and taps me on the shoulder. The entitled mum said to me, "Excuse me, but what are you doing to that tree?" I just want to point out that I've never really met my neighbours, I just kind of know who they are, and I say back to her, "Oh hey entitled mum, we are just clearing out the area below the trees," and she says, "Well, you can't cut it down." I respond saying what, as I thought she meant the tree that we were already cutting down, and just continued with, "Oh well, we are clearing out under the tree just to make it look nicer." The entitled mum then says, "No, not that one, the main one." I told her that we aren't cutting it down, and she said, "Yes, you are. Now tell him to stop." I tell her to trust me and that my father isn't going to cut down that tree. She tells me that if we do it, she's going to tell the HOA, and I just say, "Alright then," with a small pause. I ask her, "Are you going to tell them or what?" And she just says, "Teens these days are so stupid and sassy." I say see ya to the entitled mum and walk away. Just to let you know, the entitled mum has tried several times over the years to report us to the HOA. But first off, we don't have one. Second off, she keeps trying to form one behind our back, but all of our other neighbours are against it. She threatened to call the police on my family before, and her nice husband had to talk her down from it. My father asked what she wanted, and I told him that she was just acting crazy. He totally agreed, so we cut the second tree. If that ain't some good payback for an entitled parent, well, I just don't know what is. I can only imagine the absolute fit that the entitled mum had when she saw that the tree was cut down, and the absolute chaos that would have ensued when she went around to the person's house. I reckon if they would have charged an admission for watching the entitled mum scream at these people, they'd probably be pretty close to being able to retire now. My parents have a house in the city, and I am home with them due to the pandemic. My house has a very small plot of dirt in front that is fenced in by a large, black iron fence. This makes it very clear this is private property. My grandmother has a very green thumb, and brought some of her outdoor cactus over to plant in the yard many years ago. They survive every winter and bloom in the summer and are pretty cool plants. However, their spine/needles are very small and translucent. It's extremely hard to see them and you can get pricked very easily. I myself have gotten pricked when tidying up the yard, and I obviously try to avoid the plants. The needles are also extremely hard to remove out of your skin. My mum always used to decorate the garden by placing little models of dinosaurs or animals among the cactus. The kids around the neighborhood all loved it, and often when coming home, I would see some family with a young kid looking at the garden. It was cute, and my family had no issues. That was until these entitled parents came along. My mum was in the house on a normal day when she heard some loud noises outside that weren't going away. So she looks outside and sees a group of parents with their kids. The parents are standing outside and around the iron fence, while the kids are in the yard, which is almost completely covered in cactus. They are playing with the toy dinosaurs and animals while sitting in the cactus. It's clear that these parents assumed the cactus didn't have any needles because they aren't really visible to the human eye. You can barely even see the needles when they're in your skin. As my mum is looking at them, the parents see her and get their kids out of the yard and leave. Those parents are not going to have fun pulling hundreds and hundreds of translucent, tiny, thin needles from their children's arms, legs, and asses. I hate the idea that there are even people out there that exist that are like this. Like, if something doesn't belong to you, why are you going in the first place and trying to touch it? Whether it's on somebody else's property or not, it doesn't really matter. If something doesn't belong to you, leave it alone. You can look at it, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, it seems like the family's fine with that as well, but do not go in there past a literal fence and touch something. Honestly though, when it comes to entitled parents, what can you say? They feel as if they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, with no repercussions. Well, when you get home and the kids have a bunch of prickles in them, maybe you'll learn not to touch other people's things. So let me preface this by saying that this is my mum's story, not mine. I don't know all of the details because I know it's a painful memory and I don't want to have to make her relive it. The characters will be MM, my mum, EM for entitled mum, ES for entitled sister, and MD for my dad. My mum is the youngest of two girls. She and my dad went to high school together, but didn't start dating until they were both in college. It was a chance meeting that they ran into each other in a bar. Cute story, still happily married and in love 23 years later. It all started when my mum got engaged. My aunt was so upset because she wasn't engaged first, even though she was older. Throughout all the planning, she was pouting and kind of cold towards my mum. So, the day of the wedding comes. My mum is getting ready with her bridesmaids and she is marrying the guy she has had a crush on since high school. She has her perfect venue and she is wearing her grandmother's, my great-grandmother's dress. Everything is going absolutely perfect until my aunt starts crying. My mum tried to comfort her because she is the most selfless woman in the world. Even though she was getting married in mere hours, she was focused on her sister. A little while later, after my aunt ran off, my grandmother pulled my mum aside. Like I said, I don't know every detail, but the conversation went something like this. My grandmother said, "Hey, you're really making your sister upset." My mum, confused, said, "What did I do?" My grandmother said back to her, "You're way too happy and it's making her upset that she didn't get married before you." My mum just said, "Pardon me?" To which her mum then said, "Can you just be a little less happy?" My mum was in shock. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, and here was her mother telling her to be less happy so her sister didn't get butthurt. My mum's whole life, she was always told to set her accomplishments aside so that her sister felt special too. When she was younger, she was told by her parents that she would never go to college because she had a hard time in school. It was dyslexia and ADD before professional help was available. My mum defied all odds and graduated with a master's degree. Can you guess who got all of the glory for graduating from college? You guessed it. My aunt. And on this day, my mum wasn't having it. My mum said, "Look mum, I'm sorry that my sister is upset, but today is about me and my husband. We're happy and I'm not going to hide that or pretend that I'm not, just so my sister won't be sad. Today is the happiest day of my life and I'm not giving that up for anyone." My grandmother shut up after that. She did give my mother a disapproving look though. I don't even need to have been there to see it, as my mum still gets them all the time. After that, the wedding was perfect. My mother still talks about it with stars in her eyes. Now, my mother still has to deal with their crap sometimes, but she also has my dad and us kids, even though 2 of us are adults now, to stand up for her. She is very happy, and I'm so glad that she stood up for herself. There are a few stories like this that I know about, but this one makes me the saddest. I'm just glad she didn't let it ruin her wedding day. You know, reading through this was actually the first time that I'd read this story. I didn't pre-read this story for whatever reason, and when I begun to read this, I thought that this was going to be an absolute disaster. Not to take anything away from how horrible of an experience it must have been to have your mum tell you not to be happy on your own wedding day, but the fact that she stuck up for herself when it seemed like in the past that she perhaps didn't, gives me some degree of hope that there are people out there that have the ability to stop entitled parents. So, I was around 11 or 12 on vacation and there were bumper cars. So me and my 5-year-old cousin decided to go on. There was one other kid, he looked about 8 or 9 years old and he was bumping into us and vice versa. He was smiling and having a good time, and after it was over, he asked if he could go again with us. Then the kid asks his mum if she wanted to go on one of the cars, as it was 1 seat per car, so the mum goes on a different one, and so she hopped on. It was me, my 5-year-old cousin, the 8 or 9-year-old boy, and the entitled mum on the ride. Entitled mum is bumping into me and my cousin, and we're bumping her and her kid. The kids are having fun. Then we get off, and the entitled mum starts yelling how rude it was for us to bump her and her kid on the bumper cars. She said that we couldn't bump her, she was our elder, and both of us can't bump the boy because he was young. My cousin looked visibly a couple of years younger than the kid. The kid was telling her mum to stop and that it was fun. Then she throws curses at me and my 5-year-old cousin. I'm sitting there silently, and my cousin is on the verge of tears. Then the worker there, who looked like he was in college, and the entitled mum's kid explained to the entitled mum that it's part of the fun, and it's actually called the bumper cars. And can you guess what she said? Do you have a manager that I can talk to? My uncle then walked us away as the entitled mum told us to F off and the kid was telling his mum to stop. I have no idea who that young kid is, the one that was the son of the entitled mum, but I feel so sorry for him for having to grow up with a mother like that, because without even knowing it, he's already set up for failure before he's even begun. Like, without even knowing them, I can guarantee that she babies him so much that he doesn't get an opportunity to do anything that he wants in life. I hope that he's like some of the people in the previous stories and is able to stick up for himself, because otherwise, I don't like where this is heading. So, my aunt has always been entitled, and her son and daughter are no different. The son is 8 and the daughter is 6. So this was in the summer and my aunt and 2 cousins decided to visit. I decided to just go to my room and play on the Xbox so I didn't have to deal with them. I was playing for about 45 minutes when my cousin, the boy, comes in and asked me what I was playing. I replied that I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and he asked if he could play. I said that this game is for bigger kids and that he might see something bad. He starts demanding that he plays and I said I don't want him here and to go downstairs. He does so with a smirk on his face. Not even 2 minutes later, I get another knock on my door and my aunt storms in, yelling at me to let her son play. When I say no, she takes the Xbox and smashes it on the ground. Then she yells that if her son can't have it, nobody can. I scream at her to get the F out. My mum and dad come in the room and see the broken Xbox on the ground and see my aunt fuming. My dad grabs her arm and puts it behind her and leads her out the door. My parents were pissed and they threatened my aunt that they would call the cops if she didn't give them the money for a new Xbox. My aunt reluctantly gave them the money through PayPal and I got a new Xbox. My parents also had to buy me a new copy of Red Dead Redemption 2 because we didn't know it broke until after my aunt had given us the money for the Xbox. This was my pair to completely cut contact with her and we haven't heard from her since. I swear, I may as well have titled today's episode Entitled Parents Within My Family because nearly every story we've read had something to do with somebody else's family member. Usually, a lot of the stories we read are from people that they see in the street or just random entitled parents that they come across. But the amount of entitled parents I've seen within families today has made me feel really sorry for a lot of people. At least in this case, they were able to cut contact with the aunt and hopefully never have to deal with her again. Alright everyone, that is going to be that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have stuck around this long, I just want to say a quick thank you again. And if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to smash the like button below. Let me know in the comments as well what you might be doing to keep yourself busy if you are stuck at home. I personally am just trying to make as many videos as I can for you guys so that hopefully you guys have something to do. If possible, I'd also love some video suggestions. I've kind of been going back and forth between entitled parents and choosing beggars of late, but if there's another subreddit that gets kind of an overwhelming response in the comments below, I'd absolutely love to do that for tomorrow's episode. Otherwise, it's pretty likely I'll just do an episode of choosing beggars in the meantime, and then in the next couple of days mix it up, but I'd love to do something different tomorrow if that's a possibility. Anyway, I do want to keep this outro nice and short, so on your screen you will see 2 videos right now, one of which I would highly suggest clicking on. They're just some awesome videos from my channel and you will not be disappointed. But that will wrap things up for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. Bye.